A new whiskey distillery with a special place in American history will open its doors to the public in Tennessee in September. The whiskey Uncle Nearest honors the first known African-American master distiller in the country. We first brought you the lost story of Nearest Green, also known as Uncle Nearest, about 2 years ago. He's the slave who taught Jack Daniel how to make whiskey. And now that the secret's out, Nearest Green is getting a shot at cementing his own legacy.
This is about Tennessee history.
Best-selling author Fon Weaver is an unlikely force in Tennessee whiskey country.
Just 2 weeks ago, these were all horse stalls.
In less than 3 years, she's launched Uncle Nearest and raised about $20 million to take over the whiskey's production and turn this horse farm into a distillery.
You went from reading a story in the International Times to becoming the first female, the first of color person to run a major whiskey or spirit brand.
Yeah, overall, period.
It's her way of honoring the man known to some as the godfather of Tennessee whiskey.
If you want to appreciate jazz, you better know who Louis Armstrong was. And if you want to appreciate American whiskey, you should know who Nathan Nearest Green was.
They all died.
Jeffrey Wright from HBO's Westworld feels so passionately about preserving Green's story
Nearest Green was a slave here.
that he made a short film to honor him. In the late 1850s, a farm owner's slave known as Nearest Green started working with a young orphan named Jack Daniel.
We just need to know stories like this because it smashes the lies.
There is no known photograph of Nearest Green, but this is his son George, sitting right next to Jack Daniel. A black man and a white man sitting side by side at a deeply divided time in the deep American South.
You have this great iconic American brand and this thing that is representative of something that sits in our soul, that's created by the coming together of two families, an unlikely partnership.
That partnership was an open secret in Lynchburg, Tennessee.
It's kind of the same family.
William Hussey Jr. is a member of the Tennessee Squires, a Jack Daniels fan club of sorts.
You believe in this brand so much, you've literally inked it on your skin.
Yes, and this one here is the Jack Daniels, like the barrel house and different barrels. And this is my newest Uncle Nearest, which is a piece of Jack Daniels history.
This has changed the story that folks in these parts have been living with most of their lives. How are they dealing with it?
Well, I would say about 95% has understood and have accepted it. But I think there's still the 5% of old Southern boys who could care less, would like to keep everything hidden.
He's become an unlikely ambassador for Uncle Nearest, another steward of the story, as author Fon Weaver likes to say.
Every single time you take that sip, you should be telling the story of Nearest. That's how we make sure that his legacy is not only cemented, but it continues on beyond us to the next generation.
I wish my grandmother could see this. I do. I am Nearest Green's great-great-granddaughter.
Victoria Edie Butler says the idea to make a whiskey bearing her ancestor's name came first from a member of Jack Daniels' family, and then from her own.
Fon was like, what can we do to keep Nearest Green's legacy alive? And one family member said, put his name on a bottle.
3 of Nearest Green's descendants still work at the Jack Daniels distillery.
They were solidly behind you in this discovery mode of who Uncle Nearest was. You're their competition now. Aren't you?
I do not consider myself competition whatsoever. When we go out into the marketplace, we are selling Uncle Nearest, but we are talking about Jack in a way that makes you want to drink Jack Daniel as well.
An unlikely friendship, an iconic American brand, and now a legacy that can never be forgotten.
What happens when everything we know about something changes?
This is a story that unifies us, and I think we so desperately need that now. We forever will be in this thing together, and that's the story of Nathan Nearest Green, Uncle Nearest, and Jack Daniel.
Uncle Nearest is currently in 48 states, 148 countries, as she said, the fastest growing independent American spirit.
Wow.
And a lot of the proceeds go into a foundation, the mission of which is to make sure that every descendant gets a college education. 10 so far are through college. It's amazing what they're doing.
Very impressive. And another brand of whiskey for me to try.
No samples here at the table. Did you try it?
I did. You can go to my Instagram page and check out my reaction.
I'm going to your office because there better be a
We have
bottle.
a bottle there. Up next, we'll look at what mattered this week. We'll be right back.